There are moments in royal history that feel larger than the event itself, not because of what is said, but because of what is silently understood. And as the gates of Buckingham Palace opened once again for the season's first grand garden party, all eyes turned toward one figure. Not the king, not the headlines, but Catherine, Princess of Wales. Walking beside Prince William with calm confidence and effortless elegance, Catherine's appearance carried a weight far beyond fashion or ceremony. Against the backdrop of palace lawns, military bands, and centuries-old tradition, her presence felt symbolic, almost reassuring. Because after months of uncertainty, public speculation, and emotional strain surrounding the royal family, this wasn't simply another royal engagement. It was a message, a carefully measured reminder of continuity, stability, and grace under pressure. But beneath the polished smiles and glamorous photographs was something deeper unfolding, a quiet emotional shift inside the monarchy itself. And this is where the story becomes far more interesting. Royal garden parties have always been presented as elegant, social traditions: afternoon tea, polished smiles, carefully curated guest lists. But in reality, these events serve a much deeper purpose. They are performances of national stability. Every detail inside the palace gates is intentional. The posture, the timing, the colors. Even the smallest interaction becomes part of a larger message the monarchy sends to the public. And this year, that message mattered more than ever. Because Catherine's return did not happen during a period of calm. It came after months of intense public attention, health concerns, family tensions, and growing questions about the future of the royal family. In moments like these, the monarchy relies heavily on symbolism rather than explanation. That's why the appearance of William and Catherine together felt so significant. More and more, they are no longer viewed simply as the Prince and Princess of Wales, but as the future king and queen, already preparing the public emotionally for the next era. And what made this moment especially powerful was how carefully controlled everything appeared. This wasn't fashion. This was strategy. Every smile, every gesture, every conversation with guests communicated the same underlying message. The institution remained steady, composed, and moving forward. The moment Catherine stepped onto the Buckingham Palace lawns, the visual message was immediate. She wore a soft cream dress by self-portrait, elegant, structured, and unmistakably classic. The silhouette carried a quiet sense of restraint, avoiding anything overly modern or attention-seeking. And that choice mattered. Because royal fashion is never accidental. Every texture, color, and accessory is carefully considered to shape emotional perception. In Catherine's case, the look projected calm authority, not extravagance. But the deeper symbolism came through the details. The princess paired her outfit with pearl earrings, once belonging to Queen Elizabeth II, creating a subtle but emotionally powerful connection between past and future. It was more than a style decision. It was visual continuity, a reminder that although generations change, the institution survives through tradition. Even her hairstyle, the familiar soft waves the public has associated with her for years, reinforced something psychologically important: consistency. At a time when the monarchy has faced uncertainty and intense scrutiny, familiarity itself becomes comforting. And while other royals, including Duchess Sophie and Zara Tindall, also embraced sophisticated spring fashion, Catherine's presence carried a different emotional gravity altogether. The cameras naturally followed her because audiences instinctively understand symbolism, even when it's unspoken. This wasn't simply elegance for elegance's sake. This was image-making at the highest royal level, because during uncertain periods, people often look for visual reassurance before they believe verbal reassurance. But beyond the polished photographs and royal spectacle, the true emotional center of the garden party was found in the people standing quietly among the crowds. One of those guests was Rhian Mannings, the founder of the charity, Duchess, an organization born from unimaginable personal tragedy after the loss of her young son. Instead of disappearing into grief, she transformed pain into purpose, creating support systems for families facing sudden bereavement. And this is precisely why the monarchy invites figures like her into these royal spaces. Because modern royal events are no longer designed only to display tradition or hierarchy. Increasingly, they are used to spotlight resilience, healing, and emotional survival. Another guest, Sam Stables, represented mental health advocacy within farming communities, an issue often overlooked despite the deep isolation, and emotional pressure many rural families experience. What made the moment powerful was the contrast itself. On one side stood Buckingham Palace, centuries of wealth, ceremony, and royal formality. On the other stood ordinary individuals carrying stories of grief, trauma, and perseverance. And somehow the monarchy understands that this contrast now matters more than ever, because today's public no longer responds emotionally to power alone. When viewed individually, royal appearances can seem simple. A handshake here, a smile there, another carefully photographed afternoon at Buckingham Palace. But when viewed together, a larger pattern begins to emerge. The modern monarchy operates less like a political institution and more like a symbolic one. Its real power no longer comes from direct authority. It comes from emotional influence, public trust, and the ability to project stability during uncertain times. And few figures understand that better than William and Catherine. What makes their strategy effective is not dramatic reinvention, but controlled consistency. They rarely over-explain. They avoid emotional chaos in public. And during moments of intense scrutiny, they lean even harder into visual discipline, tradition, and calm presentation. Because psychologically, people look for reassurance in repetition. The familiar image of Catherine smiling beside William, the carefully chosen outfits, the composed body language, all of it quietly signals permanence in a rapidly changing world. But this is where things become especially strategic. The monarchy understands that younger generations connect less with rigid hierarchy and more with emotional authenticity. That's why recent royal appearances increasingly focus on mental health, childhood development, grief support, and community healing. This isn't accidental public relations. It's the monarchy adapting for survival. And in many ways, Catherine has become central to that transformation. She represents a balance the institution desperately needs: tradition without coldness, elegance without distance, duty without visible resentment. That balance is incredibly rare, because in an era dominated by celebrity culture, social media conflict, and constant public exposure, the royal family faces a difficult challenge: remaining relevant without becoming ordinary. And moments like this garden party reveal exactly how they attempt to do it in the end. This was never simply about a garden party. It was about what the image represented. Standing beside Prince William, beneath the palace balconies and centuries-old tradition, Catherine embodied something the monarchy desperately needs in this new era: endurance without drama, stability without rigidity, and elegance that still feels emotionally human. That is why her appearance resonated far beyond royal watchers or fashion headlines. Because the modern monarchy is slowly redefining itself, less through authority and more through emotional symbolism, less through distance and more through carefully controlled connection. And whether people admire the institution or question it, they remain fascinated by these rituals for one reason: they offer the illusion of permanence in an unpredictable world. The clothing, the gardens, the traditions, the smiles, all of it becomes part of a larger psychological performance designed to reassure the public that some things still endure.